What happens when a war, like, just ends, but it doesn't really end? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when the conflict is over officially.
Yeah, but the fallout from it continues,
Uh-huh.
like, for years and years.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what we're looking at today as we dive into the aftermath of the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza.
Right.
It's been 500 days now
Wow.
since that conflict began, and we're going to unpack some incredible reporting that we got from the Associated Press
Okay.
that really paints this, like, complicated picture of where things stand now.
Yeah, it's a fascinating moment, isn't it? Because you have this like 500-day mark
Right.
that I feel like is prompting a lot of people to stop and think.
Yeah.
But it's not like there's any sense of closure,
Right.
like Israelis are marking this milestone with all these protests demanding the return of hostages, while at the same time you have Palestinians in Gaza who are facing a whole other layer of uncertainty with this proposed relocation plan.
It's like two totally different realities
Yeah,
happening at the same time.
exactly.
And it's interesting because on the one hand, you have these families in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Islet Samarano's, her son was killed in a Hamas attack.
Oh, wow.
And they're grappling with this, like, immense grief and demanding answers.
Of course.
And then on the other hand, you have Palestinians in Gaza who are being presented with this relocation plan
Right.
that on the one hand could offer them a way out of this devastated area,
Yeah.
but it's also raising a lot of concerns.
And it's those concerns that I think are really important to understand.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just about like moving people around.
Uh-huh.
It's about what does voluntary relocation even mean? Like
Right.
when you have a whole population
Yeah.
who's been through so much trauma, living in this environment of just destruction,
Uh-huh.
how much agency do they really have in making a decision like this?
It's a really tough question, and the reporting actually gets into the specifics of Israel's plan,
Oh, okay.
which includes these, like, assistance packages for those who choose to leave,
Okay.
covering travel by sea, air, and land.
Wow.
But even with all that,
Mhm.
there's this, like, palpable tension and underlying anxiety about what this relocation could actually mean.
It's about understanding the context.
Yeah.
Like these aren't just like choices on a menu.
Right.
These are decisions that are being made in the shadow of a conflict that has affected every single aspect of life in Gaza.
Totally.
So even the idea of a fresh start comes with a lot of baggage.
For sure. For sure. And amidst all of this, there are these, like, little glimmers of hope,
Oh, okay.
shining through, like the story of Sharon Alon Cuneo.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband is still a hostage,
Oh, gosh.
but she recently got confirmation that he's alive,
Wow.
like a sign of life from other hostages who were released.
That's got to be incredibly powerful for her.
Yeah.
And her whole family.
I can't even imagine.
It really speaks to the impact of the ceasefire agreement,
Yeah.
which even though it has its limitations, has managed to get at least some hostages released.
Right.
Of course, the next phase of that whole process
Yeah.
is going to be even more challenging, especially when it comes to getting the remaining captives back.
Right. And speaking of challenges, we also have all these international players
Oh, right.
who are trying to navigate this incredibly complex situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Senator Marco Rubio.
Mm-hmm.
He recently visited the Middle East,
Okay.
and he met with a bunch of leaders in the region,
Uh-huh.
including Israel's prime minister,
Right.
to discuss the post-conflict plan for Gaza.
Rubio's visit is interesting to me
Oh, yeah.
because he's not just there to kind of like rubber stamp whatever's already in motion.
Right.
He's actually trying to find some alternatives to Trump's relocation plan,
Huh.
while at the same time also pushing for the release of American hostages.
Okay.
So it really shows the balancing act that's happening with,
Yeah.
trying to address the humanitarian concerns and the political realities and, international pressure all at the same time.
It's like this giant puzzle with all these moving pieces.
Totally.
And one of those pieces that just shifted is the release of Ire Horn,
Oh,
who
wow.
was held captive for 498 days. He's free now,
That's great.
but his message is incredibly powerful.
Oh, really?
He's pleading for the urgent return of the remaining hostages,
Oh, wow.
including his own brother.
Oh, my God.
So, his story is so poignant because it, like, puts a human face on this,
Yeah.
like, kind of abstract idea of hostage negotiations.
Totally.
And this is all happening while there are still protests in Israel
Right.
demanding the return of all hostages.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, you have Prime Minister Netanyahu
Mm-hmm.
who's facing his own legal battles.
Right.
So it's like another layer of
Oh,
complexity
totally.
on top of this already delicate situation.
Trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while someone's shaking it up.
Exactly. And then, as if things weren't complicated enough,
Oh, gosh, what now?
you have this simmering tension between Lebanon and Israel.
Oh, right, yeah.
Specifically, the issue of Israeli troops
Mm-hmm.
remaining in these like strategic locations
Yeah.
in southern Lebanon.
So even though there was that ceasefire agreement
Right.
that was supposed to de-escalate the tensions
Huh.
between Israel and Hezbollah,
Yeah.
there are all these concerns now about how quickly the Israelis are withdrawing from that buffer zone in southern Lebanon.
Right.
And you have both sides accusing each other of violations.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it just feels really fragile.
It does. And then adding fuel to the fire.
Oh, no.
You have the targeted killing of a Hamas commander in Lebanon
What?
by an Israeli drone strike.
Oh, gosh.
So it's this stark reminder that this whole situation is far from stable.
Yeah,
And any incident could escalate things really quickly.
absolutely.
So here we are 500 days into this conflict, and it kind of makes you wonder,
Yeah,
where do we even begin to think about, like,
right.
lasting peace?
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's an easy answer.
No.
You know, we've talked about the politics and the ceasefires and the different proposals that are out there.
Uh-huh.
But I think what often gets lost
Yeah.
are all the underlying issues that have been driving this conflict for decades.
Yeah, like those historical grievances,
Yeah,
the competing claims to land and resources, the trauma that's been passed down through generations.
It's heavy stuff.
It is. And those are the things that I feel like
Yeah,
really need to be addressed
absolutely.
if there's going to be any hope of, like, genuine reconciliation.
It requires a totally different way of thinking.
Yeah.
Like moving away from this us versus them mentality that's
Right.
been so dominant for so long.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about erasing the past
Right.
or ignoring injustices, but it's about finding a way for both sides to acknowledge each other's pain
Mm-hmm.
and start to rebuild that trust.
It's about recognizing that, like, shared humanity
Exactly.
that we all have.
Yeah. Even amidst the very real differences
Right?
and the deeply held beliefs that have fueled this conflict.
Yeah, and that's not easy.
No, it's
It demands empathy.
Oh, for sure.
Demands a willingness to, like, listen to perspectives that challenge our own, and a commitment to dialogue,
Yeah.
even when it's uncomfortable.
Even when it's really hard.
Yeah, it's a journey that needs
Yeah.
patience, perseverance, and a belief that, like,
Right.
a different future is possible.
Absolutely. Like a future where Israelis and Palestinians can live together
Yeah.
in security and with respect for each other.
And that's where resources like the Global Take are so important.
Oh,
You
totally.
know, they provide that context.
Yeah.
In-depth analysis, the diverse voices.
It's about connecting all the dots,
Yes.
being a bigger picture, and recognizing that peace isn't just the absence of war,
Right.
but it's also the presence of justice,
Yeah.
equality,
Mm-hmm.
and this shared commitment to a better future.
It's a really powerful reminder that we can't just sit back and be passive observers.
No, we all have a role to play
Yeah.
in advocating for peace,
Uh-huh.
understanding the complexities,
Yeah.
and pushing for solutions that address the root causes,
Absolutely.
not just the symptoms.
And if this deep dive has made you curious to learn more,
Yeah,
I highly encourage you to subscribe to the Global Take.
it's an incredible resource for anyone who wants to stay informed and engaged with the world.
Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure.